Hello everyone, my name is Sunil and today we are covering an interesting topic around private 5G, which is enterprise evaluation strategies. And what had happened very recently is that I got the opportunity to be a listener or up to some extent a contributor as well in some of the early discussions with the enterprises and what I had learned from those discussions. So I will pen down those thoughts as a part of this session. So, what exactly the enterprises are looking at when they see that there is this another wireless connectivity options which they can leverage to meet their digitization demand, right? Why private 5G? Because enterprises, of course, are also being considered as a major consumer of 5G. It is not only the people like you and me who were individual users. That was the time for 4G, but with 5G, along with these individual consumers, service providers are also looking at enterprises. So, in this video, I will cover the enterprise side of the story. And I have kept these videos focused only around the evaluation criteria. So this video is not technical. I will just talk about some thoughts that come from the business leaders of these enterprises. So if you are an engineer, if you are a business leader, you may find this video useful, but if you are somebody who is listening to this to know the technical know-hows of private 5G or 5G, then this video will not cover that. I have some more videos there on the YouTube which cover some of the technical aspects, and in fact, there are more those are planned that will target that technical audience basically. So, as a part of this, what we will be talking about in this video is the general evaluation criteria, right? And since I want to keep these videos short, probably a bite-size video, so that you can listen and dial in and listen to those particular aspects which you are interested to listen in, I have divided it into three parts. So today we will be only focusing on this, which is our first part. Next video will focus on business evaluation criteria, and third is how they can integrate with their existing enterprise. Right? What are the thoughts or what these business leaders have in mind when they look at this private 5G as a another wireless connectivity option? So with that, let's just look at this general evaluation criteria. So here, what actually enterprise consider to operate a private cellular network? Very first thing is what exactly they are trying to solve. Believe me, there are a lot of discussions that happens around this, the use case considerations that when we get into the discussions with the enterprise, we try to understand what is the problem that they are trying to solve. Is it like managing the heavy equipments in manufacturing or automobile or mining side, like or basically the OT side of the enterprise, or it is to cover some extended outdoor parameters? And here, just to share with you one interesting fact that I was listening to one of the conversation around an automated guided vehicle, where from the vendor side we were seeing this, that this is a clear use case where a moving vehicle in a premises, right, need very low latency reliable network when a automated vehicle move from, let's say, point A to point B, and it also need very faster handoffs. But what I learned from these conversations is that what the enterprises are saying, that the manufacturers basically of AGVs, automated guided vehicles, are putting control intelligence of the AGVs into the vehicle itself, as opposed to expect it from the network side. What this in turn results is that this reduces the need for the very low latency use case that I was talking earlier, right? So if there is a lot more control within the device itself, like I have not gone into the depth what those AGV manufacturers are doing, but the point that I was able to capture is that there is a lot more controls within that work it's and that communicate with the other sensors on that vehicle itself, and the reliance on the network is minimized. So that was one trend that I had seen, and in fact, one another customer, when we were talking about AR and VR use cases, there also the application guys were talking about relaxing some of the stringent network requirements. But how far this will go, it's something that we need to see. But with private 5G or 5G per se, low latency network, high throughput network are the key promises that the 5G comes in. So we may see soon some more traction around these as this industry 4.0, right? These enterprises are looking at, when they realize this, when they move ahead with their digitization, they are looking at private 5G also as a potential connectivity partner into that, right? But as of 2023, when we are recording this video somewhere in August, there are like limited use cases, I can admit, that these enterprises can solve. And that is not only from the application perspective, right? That is also from the endpoint perspective. And I will come to this endpoint point in a minute. But you might have heard very recently there was some news about the Adani Group in India, where they may miss their 1 year 5G rollout deadline because of the use cases actually they were trying to solve with it. So they have some spectrum which they have took into auctions, and it was in the millimeter wave segment of the 5G. So they are yet to figure out. And in the wave specifically, it is not only the Adani. I see there are other operators as well, including the service providers, by the way, are struggling with finding some business use cases. Currently, the provider's focus is providing high bandwidth. Whenever you will see any provider talking about 5G, this is what they talk. But this doesn't result in much revenue for the operators. So, to cut short this discussion, if you ask me, And listen to me very carefully here, that the availability of the public spectrum, basically private 5G or 5G for enterprise, provide you multiple options for deployment. I have covered those in other videos. So the point that I'm making here is the availability of this spectrum. Let's say if you're going to a provider and use it for private coverage to exchange uh, some values, right? It is especially more relevant for the wave segment, right? Where these waves, from the throughput perspective, they are excellent. They can provide up to 10 GB of throughput if there is a use case that comes along with it, and they have very limited coverage, right? So if indoor, some enterprises come up with some use cases, and we are seeing some discussions, but I would say there is a maturity that need to come there. But currently, the lack of wave supporting endpoint devices is also one of the possible cause in the market to fully realize the value of private 5G in the wave segment specifically. But this ecosystem is growing, and let me talk about the endpoint side of the story now. So if you see the components of the 5G solution, the one and the foremost component that come to the mind, or when we talk to these enterprises, right, what they first talk about is the endpoints. So the good news here is that the number of announced 5G endpoints are increasing year over year. And what I'm saying, that when I say the number of endpoints, what I exactly mean by this is that the type of endpoints are actually increasing. And there is a report that GSA published. So let me just show you that report. Let's go to that report, and we will come back to this presentation. So this is the report which I was talking here. If you see, this is earlier this year, the 5G ecosystem, device ecosystem, and it is released by GSA. I will put the link into the description. But what the thing I want to show you here is this chart. So if you see here, from July 2021 to Jan 2023, right, the growth that we see for the 5G devices is in the increasing orders. And it is like across segments. When I say endpoint of a 5G, don't just think about the cell phone. There is a lot more type of devices, and that's what I meant to say. The type of devices are increasing. Those can be laptops, tablets, some modules, right? To show you, look at this picture, right? Where, yes, agreed that the phones are contributing a lot currently, but slowly there is this other ecosystem, right? Fixed wireless access, industrial routers, modules, right? And laptop, tablets, USB modems. There is this other type of 5G devices are also evolving, and that in turn will result into the use cases that these enterprises are looking at as a part of their digitization journey, right? So this is a positive sign. It's all out, I want to say, and I'm expecting that by the end of 2023, this side of the spectrum will increase more on the availability of 5G type of devices. So now let's come back to our discussion. Yeah, so this was the link that I was referring there. I will put this link into the description. If you any one of you want to read out this report. So, what are the other components basically that we talk when we talk to these enterprises is the components around the radio, spectrum, the packet core, transport. These are the components. And enterprises, this technology comes from the other side of the planet. The enterprises were wired and wireless plays, but the wireless was mainly on the unlicensed spectrum. But now, when 5G is penetrating into this, enterprises are looking at like what additional components will come into the picture of their deployment. And though there can be days that can be spent on this is the mobility aspect. But just to show you at a high level, where does these components fit in a mobility deployment, which is true actually for private 5G as well. So this is your user equipments, which is nothing but just the endpoints. And remember, this is not limited to only phone. There are a lot more here. Then you have the spectrum piece, which can actually connect this to the radio that I was showing earlier. You have your transport network and your mobile core network. And then your IP packets goes to your application servers or internet or whatever you want to do. This is not a technical video, but just to show you at a high level, this is how the components fit to this. And normally with enterprises, first discussions that we keep it as a very, very high level, because this is mainly with their senior architects or with their business leaders who doesn't want to go into the nitty gritty details. They just want to keep their focus on the use cases and the business aspect of it. So another things that comes from their side is spectrum availability, right? And here, believe me, one of the key change with private 5G or 5G basically had happened is there are many countries which have opened up some portion of the spectrum for private consumptions. So Wi-Fi, if you talk like Wi-Fi 6 or 6E, right, that is the unlicensed spectrum, and no doubt that is the preferred choice for the enterprises given the fact that there is no license associated with that spectrum. But the only exception to this rule fall into the use cases which cannot be satisfied with these unlicensed spectrum ranges. To give you an example, let's say typical outdoor use cases that require very large area coverage. There was one enterprises that I got the opportunity to listen in, and where the business leader was talking about some of the use cases which they wanted to extend to their parking lot. And this leader said that their parking lot is huge because they are a very big enterprise, and if they want to cover it with Wi-Fi APs versus private 5G, they were doing some cost comparison, and in fact cost is the winner here ultimately. But how many APs, like if I come to the technical side, how many APs you will install versus a radio, right, that can cover that entire parking lot. So that such use cases actually drive the discussions towards consumption of 5G, right? And the another important aspect that we discussed with the enterprises around the consumption model for spectrum. I have covered this part in also in other video, and I will be talking more in some dedicated videos around it. But today, an enterprise in some of the countries can take the spectrum directly from the government, or it can reach out to any of the service provider. Remember, I was saying earlier when we started this discussion, enterprises are also a consumer of 5G. Right? So if you are an enterprise engineer, believe me, 5G will come at your door. You will need to invest some time learning about it. I'm not saying the nitty-gritty details of it, but at least at a high level, how does it work? If you want to be a successful enterprise engineer, technically, or if you are in a business position. So this they can consume directly, or they can go to the SP, as I was saying earlier. And a related point to this spectrum is that how does the enterprise like want to deploy this? What are those characteristics? Is it something that they want to cover a large distance? They want to put 5G on the outdoor side, or they want to put it inside their enterprise premises? The driving factor for these two is depend on the use case. And that use case also, which is our next point, is also connected to this, is what exactly that use case need. There are three main cases or use cases for 5G. One of them is enhanced mobile broadband. Another one is low latency reliable communication. And the third one is massive machine to machine type communication. This one need low latency. This one need high throughput. This one need density of the devices, like there will be millions of devices in a very smaller area. So whether the application use case need throughput, or whether the application need a very low latency, also have a impact on the 5G deployment model. I'm not going into the technical aspect, how does that matter, but these are the discussions that happens at the very start with the enterprises, what exactly they are trying to achieve. And finally, our users into the enterprise, right? What those users are doing into that enterprise campus, what domain they are talking in the enterprise where they need to get service via private 5G, let's say. And the trend that is seen in this is that private 5G is integrated along with Wi-Fi. And I remember there were some discussions where enterprises, the business leaders are so technical, and they also look at that, okay, I have a user who is actually using multiple applications on his station, let's say terminal. Can some of that go via private 5G, another go via Wi-Fi? And can he utilize those simultaneously? And there are evident use cases. Of course, the business needs that he was covering as a part of this. That some conversation he want only on the Wi-Fi, other conversation on the P5G. Right. So even that level of requirements also comes from the enterprises when these initial discussions get kicked off. So with that, we are all close to our discussion on the journal criteria. Feel free to drop in the comment box what additional things you feel that you might have come up in your discussions with the enterprises, or if there is any clarifications that you need in this part, I will be more than happy to answer. With that, I hope this was something that was informative for you, and I would like to say thanks a lot for you. In the next video, we will cover the business aspect of the 5G deployment. Thank you.